Hello friends, in today's video we are going to be looking at the equipment that runs this 180 gallon reef tank. Now before we get to the actual content, I'd like to take a second to thank you guys. We just hit 700 subscribers and I guess our next goal is going to be 800. So it turns out that 90% of my viewers are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you can hit that thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm, and the other way to support the channel is if you're a fellow reefer, please my friends, please help me out and hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it would mean the world to me. Now let's get back to the video. The actual tank itself, this is slightly smaller than 180 gallons. It is 66 inches wide, 24 inches deep, and 20 inches tall. It's just way easier to say 180 gallons as opposed to 137.1 gallons. This is a custom built tank. It was just set up last year, so in August of 2020 was when I finally got it and set it up. Prior to that, I had a used tank. The main lighting in this tank is metal halide lighting. Now I have used all three different types of lighting, halides, T5s, as well as LEDs. I really like the halides for their color representation. So under T5s or under LEDs, if you're running your tank much bluer, a lot of the fish colors get really washed out. Whereas when I have these halides on, I can see exactly what color the fish should be. What's currently on there is in the middle fixture, it's a 250 watt radium, and on the side fixtures, they are 400 watt radiums. The pendant fixture itself is a Lumen Bright Mini, and ballast is an electronic ice cap ballast that's adjustable. So it can run multiple different types of lights. Now, the 400 watts have a much crisper white color, which is very pleasing to the eye. However, because of the power consumption as well as the heat generation, the next time I replace these bulbs, I'm just going to go 250 watts each. For aesthetic purposes, I also have two LED light bars. So the white balance is kind of being adjusted right now so that everything doesn't look super blue. But these are in fact blue LED light bars. They are from a local Canadian company that they're basically knockoffs of the Orphic light bars. So one is 5 feet and the other is 4 feet. And the reason why one's 4 feet is because that was used on my 75 gallon tank, which is 4 feet long, prior to setting this tank up. And that's it for lighting. So next, let's talk about flow. So if you're new to this hobby or you've been in the hobby for a while, you'll know that flow is really important in a reef tank. The reason why flow is so important is because the corals really depend on flow to bring food to the coral, as well as take away waste away from the coral. And it's providing oxygenated water to the coral at all times. So in this tank, in the main display tank, we have two Maxspect Gyre 330s. And then we have two Jebao SW8s. Now I've had these power heads for I think 2 years, over 2 years now, and the SW8s are just in the back here. Let me show you. So it's really dark back there, but I've got both SW8s, they're pointed in the same direction, and they're just pulling flow right across the back of the tank. And I'm doing this to try to keep detritus away from the back of the tank. So I'm trying to blow all the detritus that's accumulating back there to the side where I can suck it up in a water change. And then I've got two SLW, I think they're 25s, but these are, so one's in the front here. These are Neuro 5 knockoffs. And here's the other one. Depending on the reefer you talk to, a lot of reefers make fun of Jebao. I will talk about the value proposition in another video. But if all you can afford is Jebao, don't let that stop you. And please, please, please do not. I've seen a lot of financing options now on Reef websites, and I really implore you to, if you have to finance to get your equipment, I really implore you to take a second thought about it. And I don't want to get into this too much, but I'm just going to compare this to investing. And seasoned investors will always tell you, do not borrow money to invest in the market. And those are actually investments for the most part, unless you're really gambling on like penny stocks or whatever. So think about that, and then think about you're considering financing to get equipment for a money sink. Yeah, you heard it here first. Like, this is a hobby. Okay, so please treat it as one. And it doesn't mean that you can't save up and do it, but yeah, really think about it before you're going into debt for this hobby. Anyways, way off topic. All I was trying to say is that, look, you can get really good flow from just Jebaos. So the reason I got the Maxspecs is because I heard really good things about them. I really want to try them. And the main benefit with the gyres or any other controllable pumps, so these would be your Ecotech MP40s, the Neuro 5s or Neuro 3, and these gyres, is that you can program them. So you can really randomize your flow. And I think that is a huge plus. I think that provides a lot of value. So that's to me, that's the only thing that really sets them a level above the rest of this Chinese stuff that we can get. Okay guys, so this is this is my auto top off. It's a Tunze water level controller 5017. I'm not sure why it's called 5017, because when I look in the stores, I think this is being sold as a Tunze 3155. So I'd just like to share a few things about this. I bought a tank set secondhand. I believe the guy had it running for about 3 years. So by the time I got this, it's probably been in use for 3 years. So I set it up, and within the first, I think, 3 months, I started putting kalkwasser in my auto top off. And I also bought a spare pump because I expected the pump would probably not last very long. So I've been using this pump for over 3.5 years, plus the 3 years before that, and it's been running phenomenally. No problems. It's dealt with kalkwasser like a champ, as opposed to another ATO that I was using, and so that one had 2 pumps, and one of the pumps crapped out, so it became like a 1-pump ATO. Yeah, so what I'm saying is, hey, this is a really good, durable product. I think Tunze has a great reputation for building products that last. And if you're looking for an ATO, this isn't the cheapest option, but I think this is going to give you good value and give you your money's worth. So I just use this is a, I think, 30-gallon brute container. I had to start using this when I switched over to this new tank because the evaporation rate, I believe, doubled. So I was using a 5-gallon bucket before, and so a bunch of 5 gallons over there. And what would happen is, so when I first started on the 93-gallon, I would have to fill it up every 5 days, which is okay. But when I moved it over here, because evaporation doubled, I was having to fill up a 5-gallon container basically every 2 days. And that was, I mean, that's way too often. So with this 30-gallon now, I get about 2 weeks. When the frag tank comes in, I have a feeling it's probably going to go down to maybe 10 days. So here's one of the most important pieces of equipment that I own. This is I think currently a 5-stage RODI unit. It can produce 100 gallons per day. And I'm actually going to be adding one more of these spare cartridges, which is going to make this a 6-stage. And it's going to have one sediment filter, 2 carbon filters. Then you got your reverse osmosis membrane. And I've got 2 DI cartridges. So this is pretty elaborate. What I'll say about water is that you truly want the best water for your tank, because water is basically like, you can compare it to like blood in your body, right? If you're starting out with unfiltered water with high TDS that we're not sure what's in it, you're probably already shooting yourself in the foot for this hobby. You're greatly decreasing your chances of success. So don't skimp out on your water. Don't skip out on your RODI unit. Now, if you're on a budget, which I completely understand, when I first got into the hobby, I was using an RODI, and I only changed to this unit last, I think, October or September. So I've been using RODI for 3 years. It is not a bad unit. People give it a hard time. If that's what you can afford, hey, that is much better than putting just tap water that has been dechlorinated into your system. Now, the big thing with RODI units is that they need a certain amount of pressure to be effective. So the big cost to me when you're talking RODI is the booster pump. So I'm using this one, I think it's called Smart Buddy, made by Aquatic Life. You can get other booster pumps that you just plug in and they work. What I like about the Smart Buddy is that it never gets unplugged. So it's always plugged in, and it only turns on when there's water. So that's a really cool feature. But no matter if you have this type of RODI or a RODI, you're probably going to need to get a booster pump. So that's probably where a lot of your money is going to go at first. And that's it. So let's go look at the sump. Okay guys, so now we're at my sump. What I use for filtering is filter floss. The other really common media for mechanical filtration are filter socks. I chose to go filter floss because I find socks to be a real pain to clean. And then down here I've got bags of carbon. I change out carbon. I was doing it every 2 weeks, but I have a feeling maybe once a month is okay. And the reason I use carbon is because I do have a toadstool leather in the tank and zoas, and sometimes they will release chemicals for chemical warfare. I use carbon just to make sure that none of the other corals are being affected, none of their growth rates are being hindered because of any type of chemicals in the water. So over here, I've got my macroalgae. It's predominantly grape caulerpa and I think feather caulerpa, or a different type of caulerpa. So lighting this is just a light that I got from Amazon. Many years ago, I was using it for a planted tank, and so I had it lying around. That's what I used. If you're looking for a budget option, I would just look on Amazon. There's plenty of LED grow lights that are not very expensive. A lot of them you can just attach to like the glass, and yeah, just start growing your macroalgae. So next chamber, I have got this. This is the Coral Box, I think D700 Plus. And I believe the plus is because of this this sensor over here. So the reason I got the Coral Box was because it's affordable. It's relatively cheap. Definitely not the best. I don't think this sensor actually works very well. This overflow sensor. But if you don't consider that, if you just consider the actual unit, it's a good size unit and it works very well. So I'm very surprised with how much skimmate is actually being pulled. I will discuss my thoughts on protein skimmers in another video. For those of you that have been following the channel, you'll know that this is the first like true protein skimmer that I've actually owned, and I love it. So I've got some thoughts that I like to share, but not in this video. Then powering the frags, my AP700. I love this light. I love Kessel. I do. I've seen what this light can do down here. I've seen it color up so many corals, and I'm a true believer now of Kessel logic. Their lighting spectrum is definitely on point. If you're on a budget, I mean, you don't need a light like this. You can grow coral with black boxes. There's actually a Viper Spectra Facebook group, and if you're thinking about it, you have a small budget, definitely join this group. Or if you're looking at some other light, there's definitely going to be a Facebook group on it. Just join it and ask the questions. Oh, so I forgot to mention too. So I actually have two. Is this SW? Okay, so this is SW, although it may be RW, but SW8 Jebao. These are 3-year-old pumps. And the only thing is this impeller, the impeller on this guy, when it stops working, I have to turn it, and then it'll start up again. So it can only start up from certain positions. But 3 years old. That's also an SW8, bought at the same time as the other one. 3 years old. So they're both working strong. There are people that complain about Jebao, but I mean, for what, like $80 or $70, you're getting something that works over 3 years. Hey, that's pretty good value. And finally over here, I have my return pump. So this is a Jebao DCP 8000. And I have it set up at, it's a DC pump. It's running, I think at 40%, 39%. And I don't know, it does the job. I've had this guy probably roughly around the same time I got those SW8s, I believe. So it's probably been about 3 years, and no problem so far. I also have 2 heaters. Hey, the only thing I want to say about the heaters is please don't buy used heaters. Like, heaters have a shelf life. If you think about it, they're turning on, turning off constantly. And I mean, heaters are so affordable that there's really no reason to be buying a used heater. It kind of annoys me when I see people selling used heaters. This is one piece of equipment. If it fails, it can really destroy your tank. So you can add redundancies to it by adding controllers, or having controllers control your heaters. But another form of redundancy is just not buying used heaters. So the final piece of equipment that I use to operate this tank is my Jebao DP4. So it's a doser. It's got 4 dosing heads. I only used 2 of them. I only set this up back in August of 2020. So, hey, a lot of people will complain to you about this doser. The reason I went with the 1.1 ml knockoffs is because I did research on this doser, and there were definitely a few complaints. One of them being that the person accused the doser of actually dosing an entire thing of 2-part into their tank. So that really scared me. Now that I have the doser and I've used it, I don't know. I'd be really surprised if that actually happened, or if that person had screwed up somehow. Programming is really easy. I like this doser. I don't have any complaints about it. So, I'm sorry it's a bit dark, but this is the container that I use to hold my 2-part. So this is Simplicity. It was actually quite affordable. I think in Canadian this was like $70 or $80. And what I really like about it is that there's a straw that goes all the way to the bottom. So your tube connects to that straw, goes all the way to the bottom. What I was doing prior to something like this was I dose ESV bionic, and I would just stick the tubing in here. And sometimes the tubing doesn't go all the way to the bottom, or it curls up, and so you're never really sure if when you're supposed to be refilling this container. Whereas with the Simplicity or any other type, I mean, there's so many of these acrylic containers out there. As long as you get one, I think the big pro is that, hey, I can tell exactly when I need to refill this. And that's a very good thing. So last piece of equipment for this tank is my Apex Junior. So I got this thing. It came with the first tank that I bought, along with that Tunze auto top off. I really like it. I use the Apex Junior to monitor the temperature as well, and it controls the 2 heaters that are in the sump. Now I do have a titanium heater that's actually in the display tank, and I'm using that for redundancy in case my return pump ever fails. The display tank is not going to get too cold. But yeah, I have thought about upgrading to an Apex EL, and maybe this is the year. We'll see. I could definitely use more subscribers and views to help fund that. But I think a controller is really good. What I'm missing now is a pH probe. So an Apex EL would get me that, the pH probe, just an updated temperature probe, and it's wireless. So I don't have to have a long cable, Ethernet cable to connect to this. I've had a lot of people ask me what I use to feed the coral. So what I use to feed the Reefroids. This is called a Kent Marine Nautilus Sea Squirt. Nice thing about this is it can actually extend. I'm not sure to what length, but at this length, it already reaches the bottom of the 20 inches. So it may be able to extend to, I think, 24 or maybe a bit longer. But it's a nice baster. It's probably the best baster that I've ever used. So I figured this is probably a good time to give you guys a quick update. This is a Tunze, I believe a long, and algae scrubber, and it's worked really well. I think I've had it for close to a year. And also I'd like to point out with this Tunze, you don't have to use it with a metal blade. So when I first got this tank, I was really freaked out. Oh, it's gonna get scratched. So I was actually just using that plastic blade for a while. They give you a replacement plastic blade as well. And The plastic blade works great. The only thing is that the metal blade works better. So if you are not cleaning your tank every day, or your glass is just getting dirty really fast, the metal blade just shortens the amount of time you have to spend dragging this thing back and forth. Well, thank you for watching this video, my friends. Now, I just have some thoughts in closing that I'd like to share with you. First of all, if you've watched the entire video, you'll notice that a lot of my equipment is budget equipment. The equipment that is not budget equipment, that I would consider more high-end, say like the Kessel stuff, hey, all of that stuff I got secondhand. So I never had to pay the full price. And the only thing that's really expensive that I had to pay full price on is the Maxspect gyres. I'd like to share with you that you do not need to spend a boatload of money to be successful in our hobby. There are definitely things that you don't want to skimp out on. I would say a lot of people, maybe they hear about RODI and they just choose to forget about it. That's actually probably one of the most important things in your tank. Now, I know if you're like me, I was watching a lot of YouTube when I started. And what really stands out to me is that you have to remember YouTube is a marketing platform for a lot of companies. And it's a phenomenal marketing tool. So I would watch a lot of reefers opening up the latest and greatest stuff. And I'm not saying that it's not good stuff. What I'm saying is, hey, I would assume most viewers are like me. You have a family. You're probably trying to save for retirement. Probably paying off a mortgage. I don't know how much disposable income you guys have, but with 2 kids and all this other stuff, I don't have much. And one of my big concerns right now is, hey, when I look on a website and I see financing options, that's really scary to me. I'm not a financial planner, but do not go into debt for this hobby. If you have to go into debt, hey, this is probably not the right hobby for you. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. Hey, family comes first. Family comes first. So the other thing I'd like to add is on YouTube, you see a lot of popular YouTubers that are unboxing equipment that's worth thousands of dollars. And it almost reminds me of middle-aged men going through that midlife crisis. And for whatever reason, they go out and they buy the most ridiculous vehicle, like some type of red sports car, 2-seater, when they have a family of 5 or 4. And I mean, it just doesn't make sense, right? That's what it feels like. It feels like at least some YouTubers seem to be in some type of competition, like comparing who has the biggest junk, if you know what I mean. And don't fall into that trap. What's important is what's in your tank. And if your coral are growing and you don't have to spend too much money on it, that's phenomenal. So if you are interested in metal halides, I'm sure there's a lot of fixtures out there that you can get for next to nothing, because halides is no longer the flavor of the month. LEDs are capable of growing coral. At this point, I think most of them have a very good spectrum. They're becoming more affordable, at least some LEDs. But yeah, if you are on a budget option, hey, you can get a cheap T5 fixture. T5s are phenomenal. The only thing you lose with T5s is it just doesn't look as nice. You don't get that shimmer. It's a very flat look. But in terms of coral health, T5s beat any other type of lighting. But I will talk about all this stuff in another video. So Thank you, my friends. Thank you for watching. If you haven't yet, please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel out, really helps me out, and I'm gonna thank you in advance for doing so. So take care. I will talk to you guys soon.